Welcome, everybody. I want to start today with a foreign policy situation that is quickly building, and I want to highlight some comments that were made, which I think are sort of the epitome of the false simplification of the situation in Russia and Ukraine. Now, the context here is we have a genuinely concerning escalation in terms of Russian aggression or threatened aggression, implied aggression towards Ukraine. I think we still don't really know Vladimir Putin's true intentions. On the one side, once we consider 130,000 Russian troops massing at the Ukrainian border with significant military equipment and an arsenal of various weapons, we say, well, Putin's clearly planning to invade and try to take Ukraine. The other side would be Putin has no intention whatsoever of invading. And this is all either sort of a let's see what happens sort of thing, or even further, some say this is the logical reaction from Russia to the hostilities from Ukraine and NATO allies saying maybe Ukraine will at some point become part of NATO, which would be very much not to Vladimir Putin's advantage. Now, I want to highlight some comments made by I know it's weird to say former Democratic Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard, and a lot of you will say that she's almost exclusively appearing on Fox and giving pretty reactionary takes. What she was a Democrat when she was in the House of Representatives. I'm just telling it to you like it is. And what Tulsi Gabbard says to Tucker Carlson is really the epitome of the false simplification that a certain wing, and again, I don't even want to call it a wing of the left because it's what views of hers are now really left, but it doesn't matter. This is a view on Russia-Ukraine that is really the epitome of the Russia's the victim, not the aggressor, and the U.S. is primarily the bad actor perspective. And Tulsi also takes it as an opportunity not only generally to criticize the United States, but also to criticize Joe Biden. And here's her view on how we de-escalate the Russia-Ukraine situation. Take a listen to this.
Well, first of all, President Biden could end this crisis and prevent a war with Russia by doing something very simple, guaranteeing that Ukraine will not become a member of NATO. Because if Ukraine became a member of NATO, that would put U.S. and NATO troops directly on the doorstep of Russia, which, as Putin has laid out, would undermine their national security interests. The reality is that it is highly, highly unlikely that Ukraine will ever become a member of NATO anyway. So the question is, why doesn't President Biden and NATO leaders actually just say that and guarantee it?
Tucker loves it. This take is perfect for Fox News, as you can see. Now, there's two major problems with this, and the reason I'm using Tulsi's comments as an on-ramp to this is because there's lots of people who are saying, we're goading, the West is goading Ukraine. I'm sorry, the West is goading Russia by maybe flirting with the possibility that Ukraine could become part of NATO, and many of them say a promise was made that would never be the case. So it's Joe Biden. So there's two issues here. First of all is the major issue of why can't we just say the best way to prevent an escalation is for the aggressor to stop their aggression? Okay? I don't want war with Russia. I don't want to attack Russia. I'm not an imperialist. I'm not a warmonger. I'm not any of those things. But we have to be able to say that's the aggressor. And the aggressive action here is not that Ukraine joining NATO hasn't been ruled out. Well, let's look at the simplest and most direct form of aggression, which is what Putin is doing with troops at the border. We just have to be able to say what things are. That's number one. So it's crazy to think, Tulsi was a Democratic candidate and that she actually had the support of a few percent of the Democratic primary electorate, and they fell for it and they supported her. And these are her takes. But let's dig in a little more into this NATO piece. There's lots of people like Tulsi and others who sometimes kind of pretend to be on the left, but they're really apologists for authoritarians. And one of the things they love to repeat about Russia-Ukraine is that there was a promise made that NATO would stop expansion and they would rule that Ukraine will, there was a promise, Ukraine will never be part of NATO. And the real source of aggression is starting to toy with Ukraine being part of NATO. This is all based on a lie. There is no such promise. And because this is so prevalent in these discussions where Russia ends up being defended, at the core of this is a lie. Such a promise, the promise that Ukraine would never join NATO, was initially proposed verbally by the German and U.S. foreign ministries, but it was later rescinded by the heads of government, Bush and Kohl at the time, and it was never put on the table again. So there is no such promise that has been codified. And why does something so obscure matter? It matters because it underlines the perspective of many of these people on the situation. At the time, Hans Dietrich Genscher of Germany said, "It's certain NATO will never have troops on East German soil," and some other promises that were made there. But the statement was walked back. It was walked back, and no such promises were ever codified in any way. It keeps getting repeated. NATO broke its promise. NATO is breaking its promise. NATO would break its promise. The U.S. is breaking its promise. There is no such promise. And so the focus should be on the aggressors. And the aggressors here are Putin and Russia. Bigger picture, Ukraine is a sovereign nation. Russia doesn't get to say, we can legitimately be aggressive because Ukraine wants to join NATO, if that's the case. And so there are some bad faith actors, Tulsi Gabbard is one of them, who have sort of manipulated and molded the situation with lies by omission and the like to create this completely false narrative. And unfortunately, there are some people on the left that are falling for it. So we're going to continue trying to make clear what really should be very, very clear. You can support the David Pakman Show by supporting our sponsors. And one of those sponsors is Sheath Underwear. Traditional underwear involves sticking, sweating, the dreaded chafing. Sheath underwear are boxer briefs specifically designed to keep everything separate, cool, dry, and comfortable. They have a bunch of great designs, options to choose from, more minimal styles. Their signature geometric pattern waistband is cool. There's really something for everybody. But the most important thing is you stay cool during the day and at night, upping your comfort to the next level. Read the reviews online. Sheath Underwear has been a game changer for many men. Give it a try. They have super fast shipping. You'll get your order in just a few days. And don't forget that you'll get 20% off when you go to sheathunderwear.com/Pakman and use the code Pakman. The link is down below.